It's taken the designer's art, the engineer's vision, to create the new British luxury saloon, to combine aerodynamics with beauty and stature, to balance smoothness of ride with full-blooded power, and to design a car that soothes and comforts, leaving the pressures of the day far behind. Prestige, power, performance. The new Rover 800 series. Engineering in a finer form.
Hello and welcome back to Pentor Cars, Cornish car collectors. Now, I'm often asked, why do I keep and collect the cars that I do? In fact, I was asked that very question just last week by a subscriber to the channel. Why a collection of modern classic Fords and a collection of modern classic MG Rovers? Now, some of you who'll be watching will be Ford fans and will really get the Ford thing. And others will be MG Rover fans and you'll get that. But why both? And I suppose all of us are drawn to certain manufacturers or certain genres of car, and we will be compelled to spend all of our time and all of our money on those cars. And to other people, it probably feels a bit strange. Well, it probably is. As for me, my passion for cars, as I've said before in previous videos, comes from my car mad family. I love the cars that my dad drove, that my granddad drove, my uncles drove, and all of my family. I love the cars that were in the showroom when I was young in my formative years. And as a kid, I collected the model cars. In fact, I do that as an adult too. But as a kid, I used to collect the models. I used to collect the brochures. And now, as an adult, well, I collect the real thing. They're all cars that I loved when I was younger, all the cars I wanted to own, all the cars that I saw on the road that just impressed me so much. I probably need help, but until I get it, I'm going to keep buying, fixing up and collecting these lovely old machines. Now, back in 1992, after a run of Ford Sierras, my dad brought home his brand new company car. And I was 14 at the time. I came home from school to find on the driveway a beautiful flame red Rover 820 SLI. It was the facelift 800 with the chrome grille, and being an SLI, it had electric windows in the back. I dropped my bag, grabbed the keys and went and sat in it for over an hour, and my love for the Rover 800 started right there. So it's no surprise that I own one today. This one, my metallic Oxford Blue 1999 Rover 800 Vitesse Sport, the Fastback with a 2-litre T-Series turbo engine. It's just beautiful. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favourites, but it hasn't always looked like this. In fact, it came to me in a very sorry state. So in this video, it is my genuine pleasure to share with you all that I've done to the car. And believe me, this car really has tested my patience. I'll show you everything that I've been through with my Rover 800. So do stay tuned for that. I'll also share a bit of history about the 800 itself. It's a very special car, and we'll probably take it for a drive at some point during this video too. So stay tuned for all of that. Please do hit like on the video. Please, if you've got an opinion about the Rover 800 or any of the cars on the channel, leave me a comment. It's great to hear from you, and do subscribe if you haven't already. Loads more modern classic Ford, MG Rover and other stuff coming here at Pentor Cars, Cornish car collectors. Right, let's get started. Now, I think I've owned 5 Rover 800s in the past 20 years. In fact, one of my first ever cars when I was 22 was a Rover 820i Saloon. I loved that car. And my most recent, prior to this Vitesse, was a Rover 800 Coupe Vitesse in Nightfire Red. I really should have kept that one. As is the case with most classic and modern classic cars, the owners community for the Rover 800 is extremely good. And it was back in October 2019 when I was scrolling through the 800 Owners Club Facebook page that I spotted a post from Lee. Now, Lee was looking for a rear bumper for his accident damaged Rover 820 Vitesse. Or he had said in that post that he might consider selling it. The car looked really sorry for itself in the photos, But as is the case with most of the cars that I buy, I enjoy the challenge of a modest restoration and saving these old cars. So I got in contact with Lee and we struck a deal on the understanding that I'd restore the car and not break it for parts. A week or so later, I was on the megabus travelling from Cornwall all the way up to Ilkeston in Derbyshire to collect my newly acquired, accident-damaged Rover 800 Vitesse. Now it turns out that the car itself had been parked on Lee's driveway. In fact, he just got out of it and gone into his house when a passing car lost control and, at speed, hit a parked car which spun around and hit the 800. You can see here on the CCTV footage the rear of the Rover parked on the driveway being propelled forward as a result of the impact. The 800 sustained significant damage to the rear bumper as well as some damage to the front bumper, which had hit the iron gates on Lee's driveway. Thankfully, the handbrake at the time was not that good. It is a Rover after all. So the car moved forward on impact, which saved it from any other damage other than the cosmetic issues to the front and rear. I had a thoroughly enjoyable 380-mile drive home from Ilkeston to here in Cornwall. The car didn't miss a beat. I was chuffed to bits with it, and it really did need saving. So pleased that it had joined the Pentel Cars collection. So here back at home, I put it in the barn for a few months whilst I sourced replacement bumpers and other parts to address some of the other age-related issues with the car. A new spoiler and a fresh set of front wings, plus an original stereo unit, driver's electric window switches in the correct grey, wing mirrors and centre brake light. More on the restoration in a moment. Let's talk a bit about the Rover 800 story. It was in November 1981 that the British Leyland and Honda partnership, which had started in 1979, signed a letter of intent to build a large car. For British Leyland, this would be a replacement for the groundbreaking but now ageing Rover SD1. And for Honda, their first entry into the large saloon class. Now in truth, this was a coming together of equal partners, with British Leyland benefiting from sharing the development costs with the large Japanese manufacturer, and with Honda drawing upon British Leyland's expertise in building these big cars as they had a real appetite to break into the lucrative American market. Developed under the project name XX within Austin Rover, which was previously British Leyland, and HX within Honda, the collaboration delivered us the Rover 800, or the Sterling in the US, and the Honda Legend and Acura Legend. Both Rover and Honda used a V6 engine from launch, but with Rover having one eye on the lucrative company car market in the UK, they also developed their existing O Series 2-litre engine, giving it 16 valves and a few other refinements, rebranding it the M Series. The Honda Legend was the first to market in October 1985, and that was followed by the big launch of the Rover 800 in July 1986, which coincided with the manufacturer's rebranding from Austin Rover to the Rover Group in that same month. The Rover 800 was originally developed as a saloon only, mainly because all of its direct rivals in the large executive market were saloons or sedans, such as BMW, Mercedes, Jaguar and so on. However, demand for a hatchback to replace the SD1 was so high that Rover developed the 800 Fastback, which arrived in 1988. In America, the Sterling initially sold really well, but in the absence of a coupe variant, which had initially been part of the range expectation for the US, and following some pretty poor reviews regarding build and material quality, sales saw a dramatic decline until 1991, when it was withdrawn from the US market. In the UK, however, the 800 sold well, and it was in 1991 that a facelift version of the car, codenamed the R17, was launched. Whilst the funds were not available for a full reworking of the car and lots of the components and body panels needed to be carried over from the first generation of the 800, the facelift 800 was received well by Rover buyers. The biggest changes were the introduction of a chrome front grille, which was consistent with the Rover 600 and started the Rover family look that carried across all models in the years to come. Also, the rear lights were revised, making what I think is an absolutely stunning back end of this car. The M Series engine was further refined and became the T Series, available with a turbo, which is what this car has. And in 1992, a turbo diesel joined the 800 lineup. The long-awaited coupe joined the range in March 1992, available in the range-topping Sterling trim and the sporting Vitesse, Sadly though, this was too late for the American market, who I'm sure would have absolutely loved it. Production of the Rover 800 ended in 1998, albeit cars continued to be registered and sold for a couple more years. In fact, the car was sold alongside the Rover 75, its replacement. In its 13-year production run, 317,000 Rover 800s were produced. Back to the restoration story then, and it was in March 2020 that I got my quite tired looking Rover 800 Vitesse out of the barn. I stripped out all of the interior and off it went to MK Body Shop in Plymouth for a full respray. Now the car actually needed a lot more work than I'd originally planned, as the seals contained a fair bit of filler. Just look at these pictures. I felt the car was worth doing though, and worth doing right, so after nearly one whole week of welding, it was ready to paint. I also had all four wheels restored and fitted with new premium tyres. Whilst the interior was out, I had the passenger Recaro seat restored, as a mouse had enjoyed a very small section of the seat at some point in the car's life. The car looked absolutely amazing when Evan and I collected it in July 2020, albeit my wallet felt crap. Anyway, then started the deep clean and build-up process as we fitted everything back into the car. If it was dirty, it got clean. If it was broken, it got replaced. By the time we were finished, the car was looking absolutely amazing, like new. Just check out these photos. It was then time for the mechanicals, so off the car went to a trusted local garage for a cam belt, a water pump, a full service and the usual Rover 800 fuse box resolder. It then went for an MOT and passed with flying colours, no advisories at all. And with that, the car was on the road for August 2020, with the boys and I using it a few times, including this lovely drive up onto Dartmoor. Then, one day in late August, the car was in the garage and I knocked something off a shelf and it fell off and hit the bloody driver's door, taking a great big chunk out of the paint. So back it went to MK Body Shop to have the door repainted. I don't really feel that I got the use and the best out of my newly restored Rover 820 Vitesse back in 2020. You see, the COVID pandemic had hit and that meant that all of the car shows were cancelled. Also, the various lockdowns and restrictions meant that we couldn't go anywhere anyway. So the car stayed in the garage, which was probably just as well because the clutch had started slipping. So I put the car away in a nice dry garage for the winter, and I marked the bloody spoiler as I did it. It's a long car, as Rover's own advertising identified back in the 90s. Knowing that I had the clutch to do, plus the expansion tank, the header tank, had started to crack along the seam, which is a very common problem with the Rover 800, I left this car in winter storage until June 2021, before I plucked up the courage to go and get it out of storage. I brought it home and gave it a really good clean, before it went into the local garage for a clutch and to replace that cracked header tank. As I said, the header tanks on the Rover 800s really are prone to cracking along the seam. And given that the Rover 800s that have all been broken for parts are all more than 20 years old, then so are their header tanks. So you really have only two choices. Either you can buy one, if you can find one, from a broken car and expect for the same to happen at some point in the future, or you can buy a tank that was manufactured for a different car but does fit in the space and has the same pressure rating for the Rover 800. That's exactly what I did. You'll see here from the old photo the original Rover tank in situ with the crack, and the new tank, which is actually a Volkswagen Audi tank, here being fitted with some brackets that were made up by the garage. We also needed to change a couple of the coolant hoses, but as I'm sure you will agree, it does not look out of place and no more risks of overheating. I've absolutely loved driving my Rover 800 this year. In fact, we got it to several shows where people have really enjoyed seeing it. I've had so many conversations this year with people who have not seen an 800 for lots of years and have so many fond memories of them. Now, it's usually at this point in our videos that I'm sat in the front and I'm showing you all the interior features of the car. But today I'm sat in the back, and I'm sat in the back for two reasons. One, to show you the massive legroom that you've got in this near 5 metre long executive hatchback. And secondly, because when I was a kid, this is where I used to sit. This was my seat, with my brother sat behind the driver and my younger sister between us, mainly to stop us fighting. And it was back then, when Dad had his first Rover 800, that we lived in West Sussex. And we spent many, many hours sat in this seat as we travelled from West Sussex, from home, all the way to Cornwall, where we visited family every school holiday. This was a really nice place to be and brings back loads of memories. I love it here. Now, being a Vitesse, this car has the stunning half leather and half Silverstone cloth Recaro interior, possibly one of the best looking seats ever fitted to any car. Keeping in the tradition of Rovers of old, the dashboard has lots of nice walnut panelling, an analogue clock, and I've put the original stereo back in this car. With all-round electric windows, electric mirrors, electric sunroof, and this fantastic panel of buttons, the Vitesse was a very well-equipped car back in the late 90s. Rear wiper, external temperature, and the digital air conditioning is all operated from here. Being a post-facelift Rover 800 and R17, my car has the later T-Series turbocharged engine producing 200 brake horsepower. That delivers a 0 to 60 time in 7.3 seconds. This was a quick car back in 1999 and still has the potential and the power to embarrass lots of modern cars today. They say that all good things must come to an end, and sure enough, that was the case for the Rover 800. As I said earlier in the video, in 1999, under BMW ownership, the Rover Group put on sale their replacement to the 800, the Rover 75. Now, it's a great car and I've got a couple of them. But it's hard to believe, isn't it, that over the 13-year production run of this car, the 317,000 that were made, only a handful really remain today. I mean, after all, when was the last time that you saw a Rover 800 on the road? To me, this car really is a 90s classic, and I can never see myself honestly selling this car. I just love the way it looks, particularly in the metallic Oxford Blue. I love the way that it drives. I think it keeps up very well with modern traffic. I love the 17-inch 5-spoke alloy wheels. I love the body style, this fastback body style, and I just love these Recaro seats. I love this car. So now you know the story of my Rover 800 Vitesse. I really hope that you've enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more about this car, then do look out on the channel, as we did feature it in a drive to work not so long ago. In fact, I'll put the link in the description below for this video. And if you do like what you've seen, please do hit like. It really helps to share the video. Also, leave me a comment about this car, about anything really to do with the channel or anything you want to see in the future. And do subscribe if you haven't already. We've got loads more to come here at Pentel Cars, Cornish car collectors. For now though, this car's going to go away into winter storage. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye bye.
Where can you find a car dealer whose technicians are specially trained to look after your car? Where precisely the right equipment is used for the job? Where a menu pricing system cuts out the shock of unexpected repair costs? Where there's access to over 5,000 rigorously inspected high-quality used cars, and where there's such a commitment to customers that they've pioneered a revolutionary refund scheme for new car buyers. Where? Wherever you see this sign.